Charleston.
I'll stand right here, Malia.
Yeah, I can't.
I don't even see you. Nico.
You can't see me?
Where you at?
I'm in the no. Yes.
Can't turn it on while driving. Can't turn it on while driving.
Right there. All right.
All right.
I think
I cannot hear you. Can you guys hear me?
yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see Eric, so I don't know. Can you put it back to all those screens, Jax?
I cannot hear anything. I'm going to unpair this.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Bluetooth it, so I think I need to just dump it. Shoot.
Well, you know what? I was messing with my Bluetooth back there.
Dang it. And of course. Everything that you said, don't touch anything. What I do with this stuff. I'm not a very good listener. All right, let me get back to this.
Can you hear us now?
All right. Can somebody say something?
Testing. Can you hear us? No. Yes,
Yes,
no.
I can. I can hear you now.
You got it
You
now?
can? Okay. There we go.
Okay, perfect.
All right, cool. Welcome to another Friday Lunch and Learn. Today, we have our BMW 2014 328, and the customer complaint is the AC does not work. I'm going to ask Noah because he's the one who started looking at it. He just took a mouthful.
Nice.
And what have we looked at so far, Noah? Tell us what we've done.
Well, I went with the obvious, and I started out by checking the Freon in it, and it was at 0.6 pounds, and I recharged it, and 1.2 pounds, and then whenever I turned on the AC, I noticed that the AC compressor wasn't turning on. And then I went I used an Alltel scan tool, and I tried to command on the AC compressor, and it did not want to engage. I still don't know if this car has a clutch AC compressor or one of the variable AC compressors. And then I was trying to get ISTA to work, but I'm not familiar with ISTA at all, and so I was kind of stuck here.
Okay. No, so you started off with checking the refrigerant, or did you connect the scan tool first?
I mistakenly started off by checking the refrigerant. I should have started by pulling the codes.
Okay. Did you have codes with the scan tool you used?
Yes, I did.
And what were those?
It was like short. Or let me just pull it up really quick so I have it.
Well,
It was like short B positive.
Okay. To the clutch or to the sensor, pressure sensor, or
let's see, it's right here. Compressor clutch, break-in wiring, or short to B positive.
Okay. So it's a circuit issue with the compressor clutch. All right. But you did have low refrigerant. So, I mean, that's...
Yeah, it was at 0.6 pounds.
Okay, and you put it to what?
It was at 0.6 pounds, and it's supposed to be, it was half charged.
Okay, it's half charged.
1.2
you put in... I'm sorry, what was the spec you put in?
1.2 pounds.
Okay, perfect. All right, 1.2.
And so now what we have is Eric... So none of us here know how to even turn the ISTA on, except for Jason, who he's not here. We do not know how to turn the ISTA on to even get codes out of a BMW. ISTA is the factory BMW tool, and this is what Eric is a super pro at. And so he's going to walk us through the ISTA, which is the BMW factory diagnostic platform. And then we're going to just kind of go from there. Perfect.
Yeah. So the last time we met, we had some trials and tribulations with Otis as well. So it seems like that's kind of an Achilles heel for the workshop, is that the factory tool, which has the best chance of delivering a plan when we're not sure or familiar with the car. So your typical BMW guy that works there is out for the week, so you got to cover in that, and that might not be your specialty. So if that was the case for me, I would try and default to the factory tool, because I know that there's going to be guided fault finding. Now, we saw with Otis that that's not necessarily the easiest thing to get to, because it's not super intuitive, but for some of you it may have been intuitive. So let's take a look at we're going to take a look at ISTA, and by the end of this, you should be able to walk up, connect the vehicle and launch ISTA, and I'll show you a couple tips to help guide you with more detail, and we'll look at some live data. Anybody have any questions yet? Okay, good. Let's go. I'm going to share screen. We're going to
What kind of van are you in?
This is a Ford. What is this?
Transit.
Ford Transit van.
Nice. Cool. It looks like you guys are going surfing.
Yeah, we left Wilmington this morning at 8-ish, and we're just now going through Charleston, South Carolina. We're headed down to St. Augustine today.
Ooh, nice. Cool.
So, yeah, it was a little. I was like, wow, how am I going to do this webinar? And I thought I might stop by a shop, but then I thought better of that. So this is what you get. But you're not. We're not going to look at me. We're going to look at the screen here. So on your ISTA laptop, right here in the center, dead center, I just kind of happened to stumble across this. This works. Just push this button, or double click it. Double click it. Oh, wait a minute. Am I in this? How am I? Oh, I'm not on the screen. I need to be on the team viewer. Sorry. Got it. All right. Oh, I'm over here. Okay, right here. So let me just highlight this for you. So right there. This is the button you're going to push, and that's going to launch the TIS interface, and it opens up right. So the login screen, all of that has been handled. It's already pre-built, so you don't have to remember any of that. I would recommend though putting a label on the laptop somewhere that has the username and login, just in case this glitches out in the next update or something, and you actually have to manually log in. And we'll talk about that at the end. We have time. So once you log in, using that button, and I'll show you how to get here without using the button at the end. But once you log in, this is your home screen. So this is going to be you can have service information, you can have bulletins, that OBD2 section I talked about on the first session. Legacy information if you're working on earlier cars, E36, E36/7s, E3s, E30s, E24s, E34s. All of those wiring diagrams will be in this, and repair instructions will be in this legacy area. That's kind of nice. Training information. There's a lot of technical training. All the technical training books and archived books are in there. Tools and equipment. There's some cool stuff in there. But what we're concerned about is trying to get to. We want to read some faults, right? We want to get to work. We can browse through this other stuff later. So we're going to go over here to the AOS drop-down menu, and it should drop down here. It might take a second. Sometimes it's a little. Yeah, let me maximize the thing up. All right, so that's just great. So this is typically due to the scaling. So we're gonna get this down to zoom it out to about 90. Oh, not 67. 67 is probably good too. Now that should let the drop-down menu come down. Okay, I think we're gonna have to log out, log back in. All right, so here's that login screen I talked about a little earlier than I had anticipated, and it's already populated with your username and password. something to look for when ISTA is having an issue. Just, you'll see it on the forum, like, hey, is somebody having a problem with ISTA? Look down here in the messages section and look at the date of the messages. If it comes up with like February 2021, there's a problem, or there's no messages at all, ISTA's having a problem. And it's on their side, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just know that that's what's happening from the get-go. All right. So here's our login screen. It's already populated. We'll hit login. We'll allow or agree that we're not going to sell this information or use it for nefarious purposes or work on hydrogen vehicles. And now back to this AOS button right here. So we're gonna should be able to see that right there. Then we're gonna get this guy right here. We should hit our drop down menu. We're gonna go to ISTA. Now you've got a couple of options here. If you wanted to not start a session connected to the vehicle, but you wanted to look up wiring diagrams, we'd go to air. I'll come back to that after we run through ISTA. So we've got two options here at the top, ISTA P and ISTA. Hey, does anyone have a pen in their hand? Just wondering. I can't see right now, so it's okay. I'm gonna assume that you guys are taking
the answer is no.
Okay,
No,
good.
they
You
don't.
have a sandwich in your hand?
Yes.
All right. Good enough. So ISTA P, just to clarify, this is going to be for programming all E-Series vehicles. So if it has an E designation in the engineering designation, E60, E65, E90, E70, E71, those are all going to be programmed with ISTA P. If it has an F designation, F01, F15, F30, those are all going to be, and then G cars, G12, G11, G25, those will all be programmed on ISTA. So you'll stay in the diagnostic section for programming on those F and G cars, and each chassis programming is here, but all diagnostic happens in ISTA. So just to clarify that. We go to ISTA. It's going to open up a page that will allow us to launch the online tool. Down here, we'll see that this is green. Right, we got the green box. Go ahead and hit the start button. And it used to populate. Oh, it's still doing it. All right, so it populated this little download message window up in the corner, but I've changed the settings so you don't have to answer the question anymore. It just automatically launches the ISTA. So that's launching right now.
And the key is not on yet, just FYI.
Okay, that's fine. We're not going to need it just yet. Okay, so this now we're in the tool. Here's a handy little tip. See this border up here at the top, right there where this little border right here. If I might have to, I have to accept this first. If I go to this border and I tap it 3 times, oh, there, fills the whole screen, which is it's the fully immersive experience, which is what you guys are looking for, right? But it also, what it does is some of the menus will sometimes drop in behind the toolbar and you're unable to select the buttons based on your scaling. But if you just maximize it by tapping right here and minimize it as well, you can do that. Bring it back over here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's a little finicky. All right, so that gets you into full screen mode and you're in ISTA. Now, you've got some options. There's news, ISTA version updates. There's a lot of great information in here. Mileage notes, some fair information there. But if you you're sitting around with your honey on a weekend, we get the long weekend this weekend, you can maybe sit around and read some ISTA contents and update notes. Man, she'll get pretty excited about that. Then we can start a case. You can go ahead and go to cases. Excuse me. And you can either start a new case. You can do vehicle identification or read out the vehicle. You can launch a case that way. If you're looking for old cases, you need to pull up an operations report from earlier. Looks like you don't have any in here, so that's kind of concerning. Either they're being deleted every week or they're just not being saved, which I can correct. We'll come back to new. Instead of launching
I would
case,
stop. Hey, Eric, what is a case?
So every time we're going to see at the end of this session, there's going to be an operations report, and I always save the operations reports, and I'll show you how I do that on the desktop so that you can always go back and reference it. But if you wanted to go back into the same car without having to launch a new vehicle test, and pick up where you left off, you can open a closed case, and we're going to populate this area in just a minute. And so this is stuff that's kind of admin stuff that most guys aren't aware they can do. So it saves a lot of time and keeps you from saying, oh man, I didn't print that operations report. What do I do? Well, you can, if you've got a closed case in here, if it's populated, you can select it. You can go back in. You can print the operations report, which will show you everything that you've done, all the answers and values that you've selected as you move through that test plan, which I'll show you here in a minute once we close one out. So you can select a new case, you can read out vehicle data, and then you'll come down here and hit full identification. That's one way to launch that, and that's the most popular. Is most guys will just do that. They'll come in new case, read vehicle data, and then full identification. Here's the thing. With the ISTA software updating so regularly, sometimes within 2 weeks we've got another version out. There will be firmware updates that move along with the life cycle of the tester data as it gets updated. The ICOM data firmware will also get updated. So you won't know that you need to update the firmware if you follow this path, right? You'll go new, read out complete vehicle, and then boom, full identification and launch, and it'll sit there and it'll say, pad not active, or there's no ICOM available. And you're like, well, it's connected. And then you start this whole diagnostic process that's really unnecessary. So here's my shortcut to the whole thing. When I get into the ISTA, and I get over, you don't even have to get to the cases area. I just go up to the top here. So at the top, you've got a couple buttons. You've got the home button, which is going to take you right back to the home screen with the news. You've got your vehicle interface. So that's what this is here. It looks like kind of looks like a box. One's dark, one's light with X's in it. So it's kind of like a drunk guy. So that's your vehicle interface. Print, that's your print button. Your settings for your system, for the operating system, this version of ISTA. If you want to hit that, you can come down here real quick. Should open this up. See, we're selected in BMW Mini, a Mini I. You can also, if you have a Rolls Royce in there you need to get into, you can come in and change it to Rolls Royce. It'll change the color of the mask. Instead of green, it'll be pink, I think. This print selection, I always like to go print select. It offers you which printer you want to print to. Print the file. I don't know where it sends it. Sends it in a file somewhere. I never find them. I don't know. So with printer selection, it gives you the printer tray, so you can select PDF, because that's really what you're going to want to do. Because most of these operations reports are going to be 50, 60 pages long. So you're just killing trees if you're actually physically printing them. So restrict the display of time frames for new items. So that's all the news that comes through. So if the news is over 6 months old, it's not going to show you anything new. Delete local cases. So that's stuff that is stored related to your subscription, and that's your closed cases and going back in. I like to push this out to never. And that way, we're just taking up their server space. It's not affecting you much at all. So, all right. So I'll set those. you can come in here to let's just say you have a customer who's they've done a little tuning to their car and they don't really want to report that information, or the engine tuning fault. They don't really want that to be reported to BMW. Keep in mind, every car that you connect through here online goes into the server. If you change anything with regard to software or anything like that, it's updated in the main server, so that data is consistent from dealer to independent. So if you wanted to come in here, case initial settings, you can start logging. You can do the vehicle interface, data protection. So you'd put the VIN in, a vehicle whose data is not sent, right? So you go ahead and put their VIN in, and that would, because technically not technically, legally, the customer owns the rights to all of the data, right? And the car cannot testify against the owner. So if the owner's aware of that, they can say, hey, I've got this software going on right now. I know I'm going to have a tuning fault. I don't need that. I don't need my warranty being voided right now. Could you prevent this data from being transmitted and used against me and under my CPO or whatever? And you can do that. And that is here under data protection. That's something hardly anybody uses or knows. But at Dynan, we used it quite a bit. Because off-road software and whatnot. So all these, the license is there, the vehicle interface. You can see we're going to be using. If you need to change to pass-through, you could go and change it here. But we're using the ICOM and the ENET cable if we have one. All right. So those are your settings. All right, and now it wants to relaunch ISTA because we made some changes, but we only made changes to the print stuff. So I'm not going to relaunch ISTA. But what I was saying is, as a shortcut, rather than coming through this path from new, read, and here, I pull up the vehicle interface. Just open the vehicle interface box first, and it's going to look for an ICOM. Now here we have an ICOM that's free. So it's connected, it's powered up, and it's free. So we can use this one. The ignition is not on right now. I can see that here. Now, if the firmware needed to be updated, what it would say is firmware. And if you've already gone and launched and tried to read out the vehicle, you're going to have to shut the whole session down and come back in and go to the vehicle interface box first, right? So I've just eliminated that whole rigmarole, and I'll just launch ISTA. I come in, I go right to the VCI, I open it up, I'll select the one that I'm going to use. If I need to update it, if it says firmware here, this button will become active, and that's the only button that will be active. That or cancel, right? And that's where then you push the configure, and it'll go ahead and update the firmware because you've downloaded the firmware when you were downloading the latest update of ISTA when it came through. So now, while that's happening, you're going to see that it says firmware. It'll go to reserved. Do not disconnect the ICOM from the vehicle. Just leave it alone. It's going to be making all kinds of red lights and getting all crazy, and that's fine. It takes about a minute. Just let it. You don't even need to look at the ICOM. It's probably best that you don't, because it's tempting to want to touch it. Just watch the screen. It'll disappear. Once it disappears, it'll come back as free. Then you can use it. Now you'll select it. So I've highlighted the ICOM. Now I'm going to go ahead, establish communication. Oh, now you probably want to turn on the ignition, because it says switch on ignition or activate PAD on the vehicle.
On the bottom there. Thanks.
So,
Dead? No, but I don't want it to die while we're doing this.
little
At least an hour.
little trivia for you. You can stump some guys, your BMW guy, because BMW guys are kind of like Porsche guys, but not as bad, in that if you know a little tidbit about the product that they're specializing in and they don't know it, it just burns them. So ask them what PAD stands for. It's it's programming in diagnostic mode. Just so you know. Next time you're on Jeopardy and they ask you that question, you'll be able to get the $500. All right, so it's identified the vehicle, and so we can see we're dealing with an F30. There's some details in here. Vehicle equipment, it's going to be the entire vehicle order. Any open campaigns or campaigns that are completed will be listed right over in this area down here, right? So we're still in the vehicle details. When we go to vehicle equipment, that'll list the entire vehicle order by option, which is only necessary when you're looking up parts. It'll say is option 322 SA322 installed. Use this part. If not, without SA322, use this part. You just quickly come over here and look at that equipment. So right now it's completing the test. It's so from this screen, it'll bounce over to the control module tree itself, but you can also just right at these tabs here at the top. So I'm going to refer to these as tabs. So you'll have a top tab, you'll have a second row of tabs, and sometimes you'll have a third row of tabs. So the top tabs, we're in vehicle information, and then we're going to go to control unit tree. There we go. A little bumpy on the road here. So I should be able to select it. And sometimes it won't let you do anything because it's busy doing its own thing. And that's fine. Just wait. Oh, jeez. What was that? Sounded like it. I might just need to turn this thing off. Get out. Who knows what's going on there? All right, anybody have any questions so far? Let me bounce over to the other screen. I don't even know if you can hear me. This is going nuts. Okay, I can hear you. All right. Now, you probably realize that this is it's a little slow. All right. Here, I'm going to go to. Oh, I'm in TeamViewer. That's why. I want to minimize TeamViewer. Okay. So minimize that. Get out of there. I can't do anything because I'm not on TeamViewer. All right. So does anybody have any questions so far about did I move through that too quickly, or anyone any issues? Is that pretty clear?
Yeah, you did a good job.
Pardon?
You did a good job explaining it.
All right. Is it too much detail?
No. Nah.
Okay. So I had a lot of detail because we got a short amount of time, but there's a lot of little nuances that kind of help you. Maybe not immediately, but later you can go back and go, oh yeah, I can shortcut this, because you see how long it takes for the ISTA session to start and launch and identify the vehicle. Anything you do to shortcut is that's life. You've got recaptured. All right, let me go back to the team viewer here. We'll just continue with this. All right, so we're going to minimize that. All right, so current content, determination. Let's see if we can go over to the control module tree. Still not selecting anything yet. So it's kind of odd that it's taken this long to determine the vehicle. Usually it'll go to the control module tree. There, it finally did. Much faster. Now up here at the top, pay attention to this. This is the reading the vehicle data. This context is just for programming, determining a programming session and what the software level is. Keep in mind, if this fails on the first go round, it's not going to run it again. It does it one time and that's it. So if it doesn't read it on the first time because there was a connection issue or something like that, you're going to have to start the session over again to get it to run again. But while that bar is up, you'll see that the display fault memory button is active, but you cannot calculate a test plan on the next page. It won't let you until that bar at the top is finished. Now this is an E90 or F30, so there's not a lot to it. But if you were dealing with like a 7 series, it might that bar graph could run for a while. Now, Keith, now that you're on this page, I want to show you a couple tips that can help you with live data. So here we've got a climate control concern, right? We can select the module and then call up ECU functions or call up control unit functions, right? Oh, all right,
Good.
And Eric just selected the IHKA because
Yes.
he knows that IHKA is the HVAC module.
Right. And then so if you just hover over this too, well, when we come back, if you hover over it, it'll give you the full description as well. You can also change this view to control module list, which is probably a little more helpful. So I went into IHKA just because I know that that's climate control. And there's a couple things here. There's the identification. You can do a control unit test to see if it responds. If you're not sure if it's got intermittent communication, you can run that test there. Control unit test was carried out again, which that means it's successful. It's kind of a vague response. If it wasn't successful, it'd tell you there was no communication. Software information. This is the kind of stuff that you would pay attention to if you were trying to recover a module, mainly gateways. Anytime you go into a gateway, central gateway module, JBE, anything like that, I would just keep a copy of this, print a copy of it, just because if it locks up or it goes into bootloader mode, you'll need this information to come out of it. But that's super advanced information. I just wanted to share it with you. That's where you would find it. All right, and even if the module's not communicating, it'll use the last version, so you can pull it from that. All right, so we've got diagnostic requests and component activation, right? These could be helpful. We don't even know what the faults are yet, but I'm just showing you that if you need to look at live data, you'll come back to the control module tree, select the module, and open it up. So diagnostic information, we can look at the compressor, blower function, delete the fault memory, which we're not going to do. Flap motors, if they're basic or high, you can look to see if they've been initialized, or if you've got one that's out of calibration. You can run flap motor calibration in component actuation, and then under diagnostic requests, you can look at the results. You can run function indicator lights on the dash panel to make sure that there is a proper response. And then last but not least, you can reset the control unit, which, if you've had under voltage faults, sometimes modules get a little goofy with under voltage, right? You can have software errors, you can have boot file problems, and sometimes just resetting the module will get it back on board. It may not have shut down properly, so it doesn't boot up properly. So that's, but you keep that in the back pocket. This is kind of like delete fault memory. You don't really do it until you're sure you're ready to do that, and you know where you're going, and the data is no longer needed, because you're going to reset a bunch of stuff when you do it. Diagnostic requests. So here we got the configuration and installation. So it's going to tell you if it's got a front system and a rear system, if it's got latent heat, if it's got additional heater, if there's more than one. If it's a hybrid vehicle, you'll have more than one expansion valve. So that tells you what's installed. Air conditioning compressor. There's data on that, so it'll open up. So break-in protection status. And generation of the air conditioning compressor, and lining of the compressor clutch. So that's value and percentage, and that's based on the amount of current, clamping current, used if it has a clutch. So Noah mentioned he wasn't sure if it had a clutch or not. So we could just kind of pull this up. So as I selected it, you have to hit request. And it is fitted, so it does have a clutch. Nice to know, right? The high voltage electrical system 63. So this was a mild hybrid. Interesting. All right. Oh, that's current. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so the
mild hybrid.
current for the Mac clutch. So
Do you mean it's a 48-volt
Pardon?
hybrid?
realize that was like 63 volts was a mild hybrid or something, but it's not, and that wouldn't make sense. I looked at it again and saw, oh, it's amps. So that's your clamping current for the.
We're losing your we're losing your signal there.
And the voltage of the electrical system right now is, and then
Okay, well,
these are not.
we just lost everything you said, but it's not a high voltage system, right?
It's not.
Okay.
Right.
You cut out there for a minute.
No, this is not a hybrid, so it doesn't have the electric, the high voltage compressor.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, correct. It does not. It's
Right.
It's just run off of a belt.
Yes. So this is a 328i with an N26 engine.
Yes.
So, but the clutch is, we do have a clutch fit, so we know that. So we, there's no question about that. So this is, we'll back out of here. So when you need to get out of here, always turn off the requests. If you don't turn off the requests, sometimes it'll hold the data open, and then if you're in a test module, it won't let you go any further because that data request is already being commanded through the gateway, so it doesn't allow the test plan to run. And the same goes for if you're in a test plan and you think you're going to jump over here and look at some live data, the same thing occurs. If the test plan is in that zone with that module, you will not be able to pull up. This button will not become active ever. So that's kind of a bummer, because it'd be nice to be able to actuate something in the test plan, then come over and look at the values. But unfortunately, that's not possible. It used to be, but it's not anymore. So undo it and sorry about that. Undo it and back out. So you undo all, and you come back over here, and we can look at. We can see configuration, installation, auto. Yeah. Let's see. I want to look at pressures. So sensor values. I go down to sensor values, and we should be able to pull up. Oh. So I didn't select the other one, so I'm going to go ahead and we've got the first three on here. Condenser sensor bus, evaporator, temperature sensors, and then refrigerant pressure. Look at that. Solar sensor. All right, and now we can pull those up. And keep in mind, just like any scan tool, the more pieces of data you throw up there and request, the slower the update rate is going to be. It's still pretty dang fast, and you're probably not going to notice a difference, but just keep that in mind. We've got 3 bar of pressure right now, so that's at rest. That's adequate. I would like to see so that's 40, 45 psi. I was kind of hoping to see something around 50 or 60 psi, really, to for testing. And then when the clutch is running, what we'll see is somewhere between 6 to 8 bar under normal operating conditions, and they can go a little higher depending on the outside temperature and how much work needs to be done. But there again, you don't need to bust out the gauges if you feel like you can trust the sensor. You could connect a gauge set, or you could just use a pocket screwdriver and release a little bit. But we're not doing that because of the environment, and we're not animals, we're monsters. So just see if this number changes a little bit. You could also manually rotate the engine over, and even if it's a variable compressor, a variable plate compressor, even at idle, there will be some suction and pressure. You'll see the pressure change slightly, and you can say, okay, that's live data. I can trust that it is responding. Yeah, somebody want to just unplug the pressure sensor? It should be right down underneath the hood, easily gotten to, and that'll put up a default pressure.
Your phone's cutting out. You want us to unplug which one?
The refrigerant pressure sensor. It's going to be on the high side line. So on this car, it's going to be, I think it's on the driver's side. It's right next to the fill port. There you go. So that's the default, 127 bar. So that would indicate to us that we've got an open circuit to that sensor. So you can plug it back in. So the defaults on these are usually ridiculous numbers that are just implausible. The IHK knows that that's an implausible value, and at that point, depending on temperature, because it can also look at temperature, it may or may not allow the clutch to operate. Because they can do a map based on temperatures in the circuit, ambient temperature, heat load through solar, vehicle speed, and the refrigerant temperature, and at the evaporator and at the condenser, and kind of calculate whether or not it's safe enough to turn on the AC. Usually the default is it won't, but occasionally it will. All right, so that's just showing you some live data that you can go in here and look at. We can come in and look at that in a little bit if we need to. So back to this screen, we performed our vehicle test. Down here in the right corner, this lower right corner here, we've got display the fault memory. There's just a couple faults. And you probably noticed on anything starting with F series, you're going to have way more faults than you used to have. And that just goes to show you, be careful what you ask for. Technicians are always like, I need more information. They'll give you so much information you won't have time to process it, right? And that's really the issue with F and G cars, is that you'll get so many faults. Trying to develop your own test plan, it takes more than an hour. And this is where you might want to default to using ISTA, because it's going to look at the values. It'll determine what's an information fault and what's an actual defect, and then it'll build a test plan for you in the order of which it prioritizes them based on the frequency of the fault and its bearing on vehicle safety. So we've got several faults in here. We're gonna cruise down here to the climate control stuff, which is gonna be deactivation third. So blower output stage, under voltage. So we've got a lot of under voltage faults. Remember I said earlier, hey, it might be worthwhile to do a reset if you had under voltage faults. Sure enough, we've got a bunch of under voltage faults, and we've got this fault: compressor clutch break in the wire or short to B plus, just as Noah came up with on the what do you use? You use the Autoland or the Autel?
Altel.
What was that?
The Altel.
Okay, yeah. So you actually had some more detail with that tool, so that's good. So I can get. Is this active? Is it present? Yeah, it's present right now. If it was an information fault, it would list that as well. It may give you some details about the fault criteria. If you wanted to, remember we've been talking about looking at freeze frame data. This is not a powertrain fault, but there's additional information in here. So let's just grab it. We'll go ahead and select the fault. And then right down here in the lower left corner, right here, display fault code. We hit that. It brings up essentially freeze frame data. So it gives a description of the fault. The fault code is set when a short to the positive terminal or an open circuit is detected at the magnetic clutch. Wow, I wouldn't have gotten that from the description. Compressor clutch, brake in the wiring, short to B+. But sometimes there's additional detail. The enable criteria for that, 9 to 16 volts, terminal 30B on, that means the ignition is on in the run position. Fault is registered in the fault memory if it's continuously present for a period of at least 4 seconds. Okay, so it's got to be, it's not some little blip. This is happening for at least 4 seconds. Measurement using the test module to check the supply voltage to the magnetic clutch and carry out so this is what you're going to do in service. Using the test module, carry out the supply voltage checks to the magnetic clutch and take the recommended actions. So if you have a broken wire or whatnot, use the test module for electrical values of the magnetic clutch and carry out the recommended actions. So not a lot of help there. Sometimes this area here, measures in service, gives you a really good test plan. So, that first hour you're putting together a test plan, you can cut and paste. Wow. Oh, done, right? You didn't hear that from me, but that's, if you want a shortcut, you can just go, boom. Put it in number repair order. Bam. Right? Details. How many times? It happened one time. Well, we know that it's currently present. So it every time the ignition is cycled, it resets that frequency. So that's not super helpful. It gives us a mileage and a timestamp. System context. Here we don't really have any system context because it only happened the one time. If we had multiple events, it would tell you, the vehicle mileage, the voltage that it happened, outside temperature, engine temperature. So basically freeze frame data pids in this screen. This is a shitty road. All right, sorry about that. So that's if you're looking for freeze frame data or any additional data for any of these faults, you can select that and go into display fault code. Now let's just say you got nothing to do and you just want to go through all of them, so you can hit the details here, and then you can go to next, and go to the next one, next, under voltage, next. Let's see if we can get down to that compressor clutch. And then let's say you've done some repair to the wiring. So here we got compressor clutch, brake, and the wiring, okay. I want to see if it's still active. I can hit update, right? So it shows that it's currently present. If I hit update and it shows not present, then I know that my repair was effective before I get out of this test module. That's a really helpful feature that hardly anybody uses or knows about. So the update feature. So it updates, it lets you know if the status changed, if what you did affected a change to this. So I dropped my presenter down here. Oh my gosh. Check the time. All right. I'm gonna go through real quick, and then I'm gonna cut you guys loose. Any questions so far? Okay. So from this page, there's a bunch, and then you got some tabs.
There he goes.
That's what happened last time, right? Yep.
There he's gone.
After an hour, it just cuts out. He's like, nah, I'm gonna catch you guys now. Yeah. I got some search.
So if we sum that up to what we need to do on this car for testing, we need to go to the back of, we need to go verify that the back of the compressor or the clutch has B plus going to it. So we need to go figure out which terminal. I don't know how many terminals this compressor has. Maybe there's 2 on the clutch, the power and ground, and then maybe there's 1 sensor in the back of the. It might not even be a sensor.
There's 3 wires.
There's 3 wires.
Plug into it.
Okay, so pull a wiring diagram, see which one is the B plus, which pin, and go see if you have B plus there.
Okay.
If you have B plus there, then what are we going to do?
Replace the compressor clutch.
Yeah, recommend a compressor or a compressor clutch.
Yeah.
I mean, the car has how many miles on it?
10,000 or something.
111,000. Are we going to put a clutch on that car?
No.
No.
Do a whole
Just put a compressor on it.
Right. Which I know it had power at the plug. I didn't test it at the right before the clutch. So
Power the plug. Which plug?
there's the 3 plug that plugs into the compressor,
Uh-huh.
and I back probed into those wires with my
Uh-huh.
power probe. And when I went to the far right wire, it had 14 volts when the engine was running.
Okay. And did you have ground?
I don't know how I need to check that.
I would take the other end of the I would take the voltmeter
Okay.
and take the negative and
Yeah.
plug it into the ground,
Okay.
and then
And then
take
the
the
positive,
positive
the
and
battery
plug it
positive.
into the no
No?
plug it into the positive, the B plus
Yeah.
of the of the back of the 3 wires in the back of the connector.
Oh, I
One's
see.
ground,
Yeah.
one's like a sensor signal, and then one's a B plus.
Okay.
And then you're checking that you have power and ground
Okay.
at the compressor. Good afternoon. You're back.
I'm back. Yeah, sorry, we went through some rural South Carolina town and dropped all the internet. I don't know where I left off.
So what we just did is we were just talking about like the test plan that we're going to make up to test this car based on the information that ISTA just pulled. It does not see B plus to the magnetic clutch right now, right? Oh, when you're gone again.
Yeah, we are.
You're back. You're back.
Yeah, we're gonna try and stop here where there's some internet.
All right.
So we're gonna because it's we're getting like a couple bars here. Sorry about that. Let me I'm gonna jump into the.
All we need is just 2 minutes right now. That's it, and then we're done.
Yep, that's it. And then
So right now, to continue on what I was just saying, the car does not see B plus to the back of the clutch. It does not see B plus. So what we're gonna do, our test plan is going to be, we're gonna go check the power and the ground with a DVOM at the 3-wire connector that's on the compressor. And if we have, can you hear us?
yeah, I can, but
Okay.
that's that connection is not easily accessed, is it? Noah, did you take a peek around there?
Yeah, Noah thinks actually I'll show you right now. Hold on.
Hold on.
Let's see what we got.
So we never calculated a test plan. So if we calculate the test plan, that's the kind of the beautiful thing about the test plan is that it's gonna pull up a bunch of test modules, one of them being energy diagnosis.
Well, 11
And then-
11's no bueno.
Yeah.
If it's got 14.
All right. So let's so here we've created a test plan, right? So it put in all these test modules, all these ABLs are test modules. If you're not sure what these mean, just come down to filter and it opens this up and it'll tell you what it is. So what is an ABL? It's a procedure or a test module. Where's that? It's an ABL. It's a procedure or test module. But that's kind of a handy little cheat sheet. And then if you're not sure which fault it's for, you can display the fault patterns. So the fault codes that the test module is 4 are going to be displayed right above it, right? So here we want to go down to
Well, you don't have a short to ground. Test your B. Go from plus to plus on that. Just put that on the plus. Put the other one on the plus. You got 3.5. Yeah, you got negative 3.6 volts. Okay. Do the same thing to ground real quick. No, go to ground. Go ground to ground. Ground to ground. Okay, you got 0.01. Okay, that's good. So, Eric, we got a 3-volt drop on the B plus side of the compressor clutch. When we
on
go
the
from
compressor
the
side.
so if we go from the compressor, point to that deal that we just plugged it in at.
So
We need
this
a
is the
light.
plug right
Hold on.
here.
Grab a light. Grab a flashlight.
Oh, here, let me get down out of here and look at that. Where are you? Where's my stream? Oh, there you go.
Plug. This is the positive, and then this is on the ground or the middle wire. I plugged into that one first. I don't know which one's ground, but we're both getting the same results with 2 of them. So I need to pull up a wiring diagram and verify it.
But right now we're getting a 3-volt drop from the B plus on the compressor to the plus of the battery over there.
Okay.
We're getting
Now that is if the supply comes from the battery, which I doubt it does, then that might be concerned. But if it's controlled if it comes through a control module, that would be, I would it might be that it's either the circuit through the control module. I think Noah's point of looking at the wiring diagram would be ideal. Jump back over here to this. So here's our fault. We're going to go ahead and same TL we already looked at. We can hit next, and then we should see. Oh, come on, man! You got to select it. Okay, now next. Where are we at? We got internet. Come on. Okay. So we're gonna pull up the wiring diagram. So here it says the magnetic clutch fault stored. So you're gonna work through that component on the next. It'll list different components of the system. So this diagram is not really usable. So I'll select the diagram, right? I mean, it's so small, and then I can hit full screen down here at the bottom, right? Hit full screen. And then you can zoom in. All right, so mag clutch, right? So this is coming out. We've got, depending on which AC system you have, we have an N26. So what color were the wires you had down there, Noah? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
yeah, he's looking right now.
it's
Okay.
there's a brown wire, and then it's hard to tell, but there's like 2 white wires. I can't tell if the white
Yes.
wires are striped.
Yeah, so it's going to be a white or a white violet. But
Okay.
you've got an N26, so it's going to be 2 white wires because that's super convenient.
Okay.
So pin 1 white wire will be the pulse width modulated, motor control, and then the other white wire will be the magnetic clutch. So that'll be pin 3 of that connector. And where's that at? We can take a look at you can hit the hyperlink for the connector and make that big. So there's the connector, right? It's where it's located. We can close that out. And then we can look at the connector view. And this is the unplugged female side. So it indicates that it's a female side that you're looking at, right? If you had test adapters available, that would be the test adapter you would use. If you need to replace this component or this connector, this would be the part number you need. All right. So there's a lot of good information, like right in this area here too. All right. So then we're gonna come back over to wiring diagram, go full screen, zoom in. Ooh, it's hot. All right, and which module is this? This is probably the FEM, or is this IHK? Let's see. Zoom in. Yeah, so this is the front electronics control module, the FEM, that is actually activating the compressor clutch, which is not surprising because if you look at what BMW does, they repeat what they've done in the past. And like on the E90s, the JBE was the final stage for the compressor clutch. So that voltage, so you're measuring the voltage drop from a B plus to one of these wires, and you're getting a 3-volt drop, but it's coming through control modules, right? So you've got control module circuitry, and it's going to be activated, clamped, and there's pull-up resistor, obviously. So let me zoom in here for a second, just to give you a little detail.
Okay, so because it's controlled by a different control module, we can't do a voltage drop to the battery post.
No, because it's not a simple circuit like we used to have. Just a simple circuit with a clamping diode and a capacitor, right? And that would, right? And you would be using basically a switched ground to clamp, right? It would and hold. So you could actually do that test if this was an old school vehicle, but you can't because of this right here. So it's gonna be regulated terminal 15 voltage, right? So and then you see this little arrow here, that little arrow that indicates that it is monitored. So it sees what the value is. So so there's going to be a pull-up resistor, which is going to drop. So that means it's going to be there's a voltage drop of a certain value already in place here, and then it's monitored to verify that the circuit inside is good, or if you've got that short to B plus or short to negative, that's also going to be picked up here. And then from there, out of the FEM, it goes over to pin 3 of the compressor. So pin 3 is the one that you're focusing on. Now, look here, there's another connector. So this is great. This might get you someplace that's a little more workable. So pin 11 of 13.1B, and 13.1B is located right here in the engine bay, right here. This is a very problematic area. So main relays and stuff are right in that zone right here, right there. Right, so it's one of these connectors. So we're 13.1B. Looks like it's going to be the back one right here, and so you could do your testing right from here. Now you can start doing voltage drop from here down to see if you've got a wiring issue, and then the test module is going to probably move forward and apply voltage of a certain value, and you would look to see if it's there at certain points. So this is where the test module kind of comes in handy. You didn't really have to know too much about the system. I happen to know a little bit about it, but still, I would, in this case, I would probably just follow the test plan because it's going to get you through the wire test as quickly as possible. So it's coming from the FEM. It's going to pin 11 of 13.1B, which is over here. We can look at the connector view as well. So that's what that connector looks like. Looks like it's going to be 9, 10, 11. Looks like it's going to be this one right here. It's going to be a white wire, right? And keep in mind, that's unplugged looking at the connector. You can reference off the square end versus the round end, right, for orientation.
So,
right.
so I've got a question here, just in general circuitry when we do stuff like this. How do we? So right now we're measuring it at 11 volts. Let's say that 11 volts is good. How do we know it's good? How do we know that, like, 10.5 volts isn't good, or it should be 12.5 volts?
All right, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this here. So you've got 11 volts here. What about across the clutch? So so you're measuring 11 volts from here to there, right?
No. Hold on. I can't see what you're doing.
So it's basically the case of the compressor, and the pin 3 wire.
We were using a negative. We were doing pin 3 to negative, and we had 11 volts. We could do to the case of the compressor.
Yeah, it's going to be the same. It should be the
It's gonna be
same.
Yeah. So it was like 11 volts roughly.
Okay, so there should be, so that's the drop or the difference in for that clutch. So when it's active, what are you going to see here? You're going to see 11 volts here, but when it's active, you're not, right on the other side. If you go from the case to ground, what's the voltage?
Oh, from the case to ground. We did the voltage drop, and it was like 0.01
Yeah.
from the case. Yeah, 0.01.
So it looks like it's got adequate voltage. So that just indicates that the clutch itself, the magnetic clutch, is not being activated. There's no load. Now I'm sure we can come in here. If we want to do our own test plan, we could. But let's go back to full screen. And we'll close this. Go back to the test plan real quick. Take this out of full screen. Go back to the test module. See how it's grayed out, and you select it. Now I can come back down here to the lower right corner and go next. That's the one thing that BMW is going to do. You've got to hit here and then here. It's here to here. This is the action all the time, unless you select one of these documents, and then you've got to come back to test module. So we're just going to do
Okay,
some really
so this
fast.
So this is the test plan for this code. What you have
Yep.
pulled up right now. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So then that's
So check of electrical components. So we can see leakage test, a vac and refill, other problems. So I would say check of electrical components. We hit next. And then here we have refrigerant pressure sensor, control valve, magnetic clutch. We'll select the magnetic clutch. Hit next. All right. Check the ground screw connection on the air conditioning compressor, and repair if necessary. Right. So we've already kind of established that case is ground, but we're not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. In the next step, the magnetic coupling of the air conditioning compressor will be activated. So now you're going to watch what happens and see if you actually can see the solenoid action occur. So I mean, it could just be an opening in the coil. So the engine must not be running during the activation of this. All right, are you guys ready?
what? Are you ready? Watch it. Hold on. I just heard something. Watch the clutch. Do it again.
It should be cyclical. Okay, here we go. Oh, did it go? Did it go? Did I drop the internet? Oh no, that's gonna go.
Let's get in the voltage.
We see with the DVOM, we're seeing voltage go from 11 to 14 and 11 to 14 on the DVOM.
Okay, so
But the clutch is not moving.
right, so there's no path to ground through that compressor clutch.
Okay.
Right, so it's short to B plus. There's also, it could also be called an open, because you have no path to ground. So it'll be whatever's available. So you have some, and now could you hear any clanking? You couldn't hear any noise, right?
No noise, and
You wanna
the clutch
repeat it?
just
You want to repeat it just for
sure,
good
yeah.
measure? Okay, 30
Sure.
seconds. Let's do it. I like to test something at least 2 times, if not 3 times, and make sure I get the same results. So here it's going to start in the next, right now. Here it goes.
Yeah, nothing. Now we can watch the voltmeter there. See the voltmeters moving around where we're plugged in. It was, but the clutch is just dead. It's not doing anything.
Okay. And are you measuring using the ground, the case is the ground?
Yeah, case is the ground, and just on the white number 1 wire B plus,
No, number 3.
or number 3 white wire. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it asked the question, could you hear it? No, couldn't hear it. Okay, so now we're probably going to do a resistance test, possibly. The next step, the magnetic coupling and air conditioning compressor are actuated using the diagnostic request via the following control unit, the FEM. During the actuation, the supply voltage to the magnetic coupling on the wiring harness must be measured via an adapter. We're not going to use the adapter. Disconnect the clutch from the wiring harness. Connect the adapter, which you're going to back probe, what you're doing. Then turn off the ignition to connect the adapter, blah, blah, blah. The engine must not run. So you're basically, the test you have set up here is the test that we're going to run, right? Because you're already looking at that voltage on pin 3. So here it's going to give you a voltage value that you should expect. All right. So measure the supply voltage of the magnetic coupling using the multimeter via the adapter between pin 3 and ground or the compressor body. The set point is approximately vehicle voltage. So you should be seeing vehicle voltage right now, approximately. Is it the 11?
Yeah.
Okay,
14
so
and a half.
It's staying at 14 and a half?
Yeah, 14.6.
Okay,
So
so
we're
that's
vehicle voltage.
starting to indicate to me that there is a short to B plus, because when it's off, it should be off, and you've got 11 something. So you've got a wiring issue. Something's been pinched together there, and that's where you could go up to your upper connector and disconnect that and see if you're getting the same values there.
Okay, so right now we should be reading. We should not be reading B plus right now.
No, so when it's off, it's going to be off because it's not going to apply voltage, right? Because this is a straight path to ground.
Okay.
So you're seeing 11 point something, and it should be 14 when it's activated. So when the FEM is activating that clutch, it's applying system voltage, and then that's why it's setting the fault, because you've got this monitoring circuit here, right over here, this guy right here. And when the FEM's not applying voltage, it's seeing 11 point some odd volts there, which it should not be, right? Because it's backfeeding into the FEM. We've got a pull-up resistor there protecting the circuitry, but that's the deal. So you could move up to pin 11 of 13.1B, see if you get the same results. Unplug 13.1B and see if it's on the harness side to the FEM, or if it's down on from that connector down to the clutch. But it looks to me like you do have a short to B plus and not an open ground.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Does everyone understand it or have a question about how I came to that conclusion?
Right now, so what we need to do is we probably need to run through this test ourselves one more time and start writing stuff down, and then come up with a conclusion like what we're talking about. Like, go look at that connector, that B13, whatever you called it.
Yeah, 13.1B, and you can
13.1B.
Make sure to use the hyperlinks on here, and when you've got wiring diagram, use the full screen. Get this thing up there so you can use it. Zoom in, zoom out. Where's it located? Hit that. Get the details. Use the tool to its maximum. So it's right here. It's this connector right here, right over here, right? So then go back to select wiring diagram, go back to full screen. So you've got voltage. You've got a voltage leak. There's wire damage here. So I would. Do you see any evidence under the hood of rodent damage or anything like that? You know, the typical stuff. If you want to close that diagram, we'll close that down.
It's not too bad. I don't see any rodent stuff happening around here. But we're gonna go attack that connector. It's right there on the fender well. It's like on the left fender well.
Yeah, and then it's going to be a violet and green wire coming into pin 11, and on the underside it's going to change color. It's going to go to white coming out. So you know that the white side is to the clutch and the engine side, and the violet green is the body harness side going to the FEM. Just keep that in mind. So this is pin 4, which comes into pin 11 right here, right? Pin 11, pin 4, and it is a violet green coming to here. This is what we've got. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think the main takeaway from today is that we can see how well ISTA works if you know how to use it.
Okay, yeah.
If you go through the whole thing and you know how to pull up a wiring diagram and you know how to do all that stuff, then this is the tool that works very well.
Let me add in there that I didn't need to know how to pull up the diagram. I opened the test module and that was included. The beautiful thing about ISTA, it gives you the functional description of how it works. It gives you some help documents, some known issues, right? And the wiring diagram is usually, that's all off to this on this side box here as part of the test module. So I'm gonna recap real quick and then I'm gonna cut you loose. So we're gonna get out of here. It's gonna say, was system voltage measured? So was it? Yeah, it was measured. But when it was supposed to be 0, we also had voltage. So I'm going to say yes, it was measured. So it's not going to see where it sends us. All right, disconnect the air conditioning compressor wiring harness. So here it's gonna have you do the resistance test of the clutch, and there's your value, and you're going to put that value in here and then move forward. So like I was saying, all of these steps are in here. And then at the end, when you complete the test module, if we minimize this, go back to vehicle information, right? So vehicle information right here. We were in vehicle management to do the test plan. We're in vehicle information, and we're going to go over to service case reports. That's right here. We're going to select that. And you can see all of the test plans that were the diagnostic codes that are generated, the test modules that you performed, the results that you've input are all going to, the faults stored, how long you were in the test module, whether you answered true or false. All of this stuff is in this, the documents you looked at, all in this report at the end, which makes it super helpful for going back and determining how long you were in a test plan, what documents you looked at. You can go back and run through the whole thing virtually from this document. And this is where I was saying you guys should be printing these to PDF, and that way you can refer to them. But at the end, when we close this out, this information will be in your closed case area, and you could come back and open it up and print this, which is kind of nice. So to recap,
thank you, Eric.
To recap, just cases, launch with your VCI, right? It's already reserved. Close that. It'll then open. It'll open your session, and you're gonna it'll run its own vehicle. It'll run the vehicle test automatically. You'll go to you drop in here. You go to display the fault codes. You can select and get detail about the fault codes over here, right? By displaying the fault code. Then you hit lower right corner, calculate the test plan, which will take you over into the troubleshooting area. So we'll go back to troubleshooting, and I have a test module open right now. So if I wanted to, I could see this button right here pulls up all of the documents and modules that might be open. So I'm in this one. You can see it's yellow. I can reselect it and then display it, pull it back up. Now you can complete the test plan and work from top to bottom, fill out the information, and at the end, hit end, and it'll give you a result. That is, keep in mind, these test plans are designed to reduce warranty costs, and they're pretty effective. They're about, they reduce warranty costs of upward of 70% annually. That's real money. So, and 85 to 90% of the time, this test module will give you the correct answer. And you don't have to know much of anything. You just need to know how to navigate, which is, read, select the test module, move forward, answer the questions. If you're not sure, there's detail. If you're not sure how it works, read the functional description. This is not a very big document. It takes about 15, 20 minutes, right? And now you know how that system works, and you've got a way better chance of figuring out what part of the system isn't working. So that was a little. I mean, that's again, ISTA it's kind of a complex topic. We could go into so much more detail. I wanted to make sure that you guys got some gems that you could use immediately and work through this test plan. Let me know how this goes. And then I think we're going to come back to the Audi next week. We'll see. We might come back to ISTA. We might just follow up with this, but because nobody wants to get fired over the Audi.
Nope. All right. Thank you, Eric.
All right. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Bye.